All right, you guys, welcome back. We are here now in part 4. I hope you guys learned something from the Substance Painter stuff. I know that was a pretty easy little tutorial, but get you guys jump started on that portion of things. Today I wanted to cover rendering out our chair and creating a little space for it. I've went ahead and dragged some stuff, some models in that we're going to use to set dress here. We'll create the space out. We'll set up like real basic interior lighting scene and get this thing rendered out. This is actually something that I started to get this render. I'll put on the screen now. You guys can kind of see what that'll end up kind of looking like at the end. But this workflow for interiors, especially lighting, is something that I it's my base that I start with for all internal scenes. And then just kind of tweak from there. I do plan on doing a more like hardcore architectural visualization interior scene and how kind of lighting works with that. We'll get more into depth with that. But I might just do kind of a light brush over so you guys can kind of see some of that and get some cool renders of the chair that you ended up creating. First thing I noticed too when setting this up was we ended up going back in part 3, kind of messing with a lot of the chair and UVs. So to get a clean chair from what we worked with within Substance Painter, I'm going to go ahead and delete all this stuff. And I'm going to go to import, and we're going to merge in the chair, the FBX that we worked with in Substance Painter. So let me go ahead and grab that now. Okay, chair low, import this guy in. Okay, so this is what we worked with in Substance Painter. Go ahead and drag these a little closer. I'm not working from reference today on just creating this because I don't want to, but we're gonna create something fun and cool. I encourage you guys, create your own little space, create something that's kind of cool. The big thing I want, what I wanted to have was like natural lighting coming in through with sun, and then also like skylight, that kind of cooler light happening. And how I achieved that is I created a little corner for my chair. We put the desk up by it, and then I had this larger kind of area room around it, and that allows skylight to kind of come in and bounce around. So what I do is I create a little spline like this, and then all I do is sweep this guy to get our walls in. And what I'm going to do is set the line point to the bottom here. And this makes us, when we adjust these, oops, I'm going to switch this to bar. When I do length, allows us to go up. So standard house, around 8 feet, somewhere around there. And that gives us our walls pretty easy. One thing we always need to do when sweeping is set the normals on this, or smoothing groups as you call it on Max, normals in Maya. So I'm going to go ahead and add an edit poly. We're going to click the element mode, click on the walls. We're going to say clear all, auto smooth at a 45. So that gives us real crispy walls here. Now we can use the same, we can use the same walls for the ceiling, or I'm sorry, the same spline for the ceiling and the floor as well. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this and we'll say copy. I'm going to delete the modifiers off of it. And now that it's just a line underneath, if you guys see it's selected, it's within the sweep there, I'm going to do an edit poly, and then that gives us our floor. Super easy. Now with this selected, I'm going to shift drag and we'll make it our ceiling. Same deal. And let's label these just to stay organized. This is floor. Oops. Floor. I swear I can spell. I can't spell. I'm an artist. C-E-I-L-I-N-G, I think that's how that is. One thing too is the normals on the floor are facing up, but when we take the ceiling and drag it up, the normals are still facing up out of our area. So we need to go into element mode and flip this so that the ceiling is facing downwards towards our scene. Not too crazy. Okay, so let's toss these on a layer. Let's toss our ceiling on the layer so we can work. I'm going to name it ceiling. You could also hide it. I just like, especially walls or ceilings, to throw them on a hideable layer. I can just toggle on and off. And then we can also use isolate. Yeah, isolate selection too. So let's go ahead and add our windows in. The only window I'm really worried about detailing out is this one that's going to be by our chair, only because you can't see the other ones. They're not going to be part of the camera. The view is going to be from this bottom portion upward, so I don't need to be worried about the rest. What I do is just go in with my edit poly in. You can do another one if you want to go back in case you mess up. And I'm just going to add in some lines here to give us like a real tall like window we'll cut out. And I'm going to add another big one down here, add another one here. There's no rhyme or reason to this. Just kind of thinking about where I want light coming in. So what I'll do here is we're going to select these faces. We're going to do an inset. And we'll do something like that. And we'll do bridge. There's our window. Don't use booleans. Don't use booleans. I see tons of people online. I don't know what's wrong with my walls. I can't smooth them. Using booleans in the geometry is just trashed. So again, learning to work within quads. This is going to keep everything quads, as you can see. Yeah, so if we need to smooth something down the road, we can. We probably won't have to, but just keep working in quads, even though it might be a little challenging. So what else? Oh yeah, let's take this here. So actually, how do I want to do this? I'm going to grab, first thing is let's go ahead and straighten our walls out. So actually, let me show you this. If you guys notice, let's say this window over here by our chair, do you see this line here? It's like at an angle. So we need to straighten those out. I just go in at the top view and we'll grab these here and then we'll just say, I think it's Y. Depends on the axis it's in. Yeah, and it straightens all on one axis. So everything going up and down, we'll just say Y on. And it like snaps them all together. So we get straight lines. The other ones, don't care about. We're not going to see them. If you want to, if your ADD is going nuts, you can straighten all the rest of those out. Let's grab what I'm going to do. We could just draw a rectangle, but I can select these edges and then say create shape, which is down here. That gives us a little shape. I'm going to use this as like a little mullion. Hey, did it do it? What a jerk. Oh, am I on the layer? Is it hidden? Yes, I am. So let's switch back to this default layer. I forgot to switch off ceiling, so it's like hiding that shape. And that's fine. We can leave that there. So back to create shape. There we go. So I'm going to use this as like a little mullion. That's the like window frame area, and then we can also use it for the window as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to center the pivot. And first thing we'll do is we'll do a sweep on it. And that'll give us, come on. That'll give us our window. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sweep will give us our mullion. Okay. So then to adjust where the position of this is, I want it to be on the inside of here, obviously, not like in the wall. We can play with these, and we need to go up and up. And that gives us that. I also don't want it to be as thick as the walls. I want to kind of bring it in a little. And let's see. Yeah, that's looking okay. Perfect. Okay. So let's copy this guy. And I'm going to delete the sweep. And I'm going to say edit poly, which gives us the flat plane. If I look up here, there's no depth. You see that? Now glass within Vray, it needs a front side and a back side. So we can't just leave it like this and render. It's going to like diffract or refract the ray tracing oddly, and it's going to look like a magnifying glass or something odd. So you add a little shell onto it, and we'll just leave it at, let's say 1/4 of an inch. That's at least 3/4 of an inch. We'll leave it 1/2 inch. Nah, 1/4 inch. Yes. Yes, I am indecisive at times. Don't tell my wife, because I tease her. Okay, we'll line that up. Okay. There you go. There's our little window. Here's our little chair. Let's group this guy so we can move him around. Bam. Okay. So moving the things that I grabbed offline. Set dress it however you guys want. There's tons of models online. There's tons of models that we have access to. Yeah, just set dress it as you please. So when playing around, that guy was a little big, tree was a little small. I'm going to go ahead and set my camera up now that we're getting into the nitty gritty. So I'm going to go to physical camera, drop this in, bam. I want this to be a flatter image, so we'll go up to like 75. So to kind of explain this, if I go down to something like 20 and I zoom the heck in, it's like gives us this like fisheye look, which is cool for something like a macro. It would be real tight like this. If I go in even more, it just like stretches the heck out of the image. So something like real close like this, like you want that real short lens focal length, but something that's more like a magazine shot, something in that would be like something like 75, maybe 100, 150, somewhere in there. Let me try to get this back to where it was. Go up here and just say cameras. We can select our target. Oh, don't you love this? Don't you love this? There we go. Okay. So from the render that I took, I had it something just kind of like this. And let's go back. We'll kind of frame this up. And actually, oops, let's set this something lower, like 60, 55, 50. Maybe we'll scroll in a bit. Okay. I'm going to try to get this as close to what I had for just that little test render that I did. Kind of getting everything figured out for the scene. All right, top view. I don't really care if it penetrates behind necessarily. You might in your shot. I don't care. Okay, that's kind of cool for now. Make sure this isn't penetrating too bad. All right. Okay. Now, I remember in the shot that I took this guy here, and we had him over here because I wanted this as like a secondary light. Generally, what I like to do is have the main source of light, whether it be like an evening shot with an HDRI, that's kind of this like blue hue, or like we're going to do today, the sun in the sky, and then have like secondary lights in there that give it like a cool mood vibe, some lamps, things of that nature. So we're going to use that guy as a secondary light. So I'll close that up. Okay. Now, some of this stuff I can't give you. Some of these models I cannot give you because I did not make them. Be completely upfront with you. But some of the textures and stuff that we're going to use today, I'm going to send you guys or have this in the scene file for download. So if you guys want to play with some of that stuff, we can. So first things, let's go ahead and set up the walls. Let's see. I use this thing called float plaster, which was kind of cool. It's kind of like a rough plaster look that I kind of dig. So let me get a new material here. I'm going to pipe these in. Okay, we'll apply it to this just so we can see it in the viewport. I'm going to go to UV map and we'll do like a box map of like 10 or 15. Actually, I think it was higher. I think I did like 15. Yeah. Okay, making sure it's not doing anything weird. And let me see if I can pull the normal map up so you guys can kind of see what this is looking like. I actually used this in my shot for Ronin, the class that I taught for Ronin's blog. Which I'll link to that so you guys can kind of see this material. It's pretty dope. I like it. Okay, so what am I doing? We're doing bump. That's right. So I did install 2020. I'm going to be working in Max 2020 moving forward. So some of that, they moved some of that stuff around. So we'll pipe the height in. We'll pipe the normal in too. Let's see if I can show you guys this in the viewport. Okay. So see what it has that like palette knife kind of look? I dig that. I super dig that. And we can place where that stuff lands in our shot by just kind of adjusting the UVW map. So if I go to the split screen, we'll put the camera here, and I'll turn this into like perspective. And we can play with some of this stuff. I want some of these digs in there visible. I don't want them too crazy, but that's too much. I kind of dig it in here. Okay. And this we have the ability to throttle back the bump more or less. I remember it when kind of testing it, I liked it at lower values. You could go crazy with it, but it was a little distracting at higher values. So I will keep it like that. And we need to do glossiness. And we'll turn off locking Fresnel. Pipe that in there. And then the reflection. Again, this texture will be available for you guys, courtesy of moi. Okay. And then we need to change out glossiness. Oops. And I like to do, again, I've kind of talked about this, a 0.2 on the blur. I don't like it heavily blurred. It does increase render times a little bit because AA is having to work to against the blur, right? You're getting a sharper bitmap. So AA has to fight that to kind of smooth it a little bit, but you just get a lot more information, which is cool. All right. What else? Oh, I wanted to do like quick baseboard. So we can draw out our own profiles and use a sweep. Like, I must do one that's quick and janky. I didn't plan on doing this, but so if I just do like a little baby profile like this, we just add a little notch in. Doot, 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 doot. Okay. We can use this to create our baseboard, the sweep on our baseboard, and we use, I think it's called custom shape, if I remember correctly. But we can do some pretty cool designs. Let me see, like, sometimes what I'll do is I will end up like Googling a cool baseboard design. Baseboard. Profile. See if I can get something cool. Yeah, here we go. And I'll like trace one of these, like these hardcore ones, especially if a client wants something very particular. We can drop this into Max and trace some of these, and you get some cool stuff. You get some cool, really cool little micro details. So if you want to, guys, go ahead and do this. Maybe I'll save this guy out, and you guys can play with that if you want to. I'll put it in the downloads for you guys. Oops. So let's do, I'll name this baseboard. Okay. Cool. So if I go in and we'll draw a line out where I want the baseboard to be, I'm only concerned about what's going to be in viewport because we don't need to work on things that aren't going to be a part or aren't going to be viewed by the camera. So we'll draw 2 lines and then we'll attach them. And actually we'll go up here to shapes. Yeah. And I'll isolate these. And actually, we'll grab one and we're just going to say attach. So if I go up here and say attach these to be the same, and we'll say sweep. And if I get out of this, they're kind of there, but we need to adjust the position of that guy. And then I should be able to say here, where's custom? Oh, here you go, use custom shape. And we click on our spline. Okay. Oh, where did it go? Let's try it again. There you go. We get our little shape in there, which is kind of cool. And then I'm going to, again, fix normals on this guy. So we say clear all, auto smooth. Now, we can go in and add edge loops to this and turbo smooth it. I have a little trick up my sleeve with the edge text, I believe it's called. Let's see. So I'm going to name this guy baseboards. And let's apply it. Oh, go back to all. And I want it pretty white. You're not really supposed to go past 225 in PBR workflow, so we'll kind of keep it there. And let's go down to maps. We're going to go to bump, right? Bump. Now. And edge text. And we're going to say rounded corners. So I'm going to keep this real low, but it's just going to kind of fake during rendering that it's got a nice edge on it, or like kind of a beveled edge on it. We'll leave it at that. Kind of tricky. And then too, that saves on rendering RAM, you know, when not loading the whole seat in, it's not a ton more geometry. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and, I hate this pot. Screw you, pot. So one thing we want to do, actually, let's clear this first, is if we're importing in models into our scene, we want to make sure everything's GGX. Because a lot of these older models that have been created that, you know, we're using years later, we're working with a different fall off or reflection. So this in here, we want to make sure we switch that to GGX. And I'm just going to do something just so we can see it. Oh, turn on Fresnel. Just so we got a little black in there. Okay. So the floor, let's grab those textures. Did I put it in our file for you guys? No. Let me go grab that real quick here. And again, I'll make sure this is available. I don't really like this floor, to be completely honest with you. It was just something quick that I had. Something like floor gen I want to get into with the interior scene is crazy, especially when you pair it up with Substance Painter. So that'll be for the next video. let's see here. I just had this floor. This one, it's kind of generic. It's not the best. We're going to use it. Why not? Most of it's covered by a rug anyway, so let me move this over to our scene file. Cool. And then let me hook that up for our floor. Name your materials, you guys. Keeps everyone organized. Especially if you're sharing files. It's like opening a terribly organized PSD of somebody's and you're like, I don't know what anything is. Screw my life. Glossiness. IOR. Reflection. And normal. Okay. If you guys hate seeing me work, leave me a comment. Let me know if this is just dragging for you guys. If you want like the quick and dirty version, everything's all set up. Just click this, boom, you're done. Because I know I kind of get it both ways. I want to show you guys kind of everything, all the ins and outs, but I don't want to bore you to death. Okay. So that's pretty glossy. It's almost like too glossy for my liking. Though, maybe we can adjust it in render time. Let me actually do this. I'm going to do like a 0.6 and we'll back off the glossiness a little bit. 40? Yeah. Okay. We'll play with that more during IPR time. Let me go ahead and apply it to the floor and I will do a UV map. You know, I don't know why it's showing up, not showing up. And viewport. Because it's max. Gotta love it. Okay, planar. Let's do 15 by 15. And can I go in here and say that? Nope, still doesn't want to show up. So actually, I'm going to save it in case it wants to crash on me. Mum's the word. Start. I'm going to name it says mid. We're going to save it real quick in case I got to reboot. Okay. Let's see if, let's see if it took it. I'm going to do a quick little IPR. So maybe it's just tripping. Oh, that's right. I got no lights. Hey, so let's set up lights. Now's a good time. Okay, so for interior scenes, how I like to start, I sometimes use HDRIs, I sometimes don't. The quickest, easiest way to get the balance, a realistic balance between your sunlight, your sky, and your camera is this, as follows. Take notes. We're going to create a V-Ray sun. So I'm going to go to V-Ray, we're going to say sun. I'm just going to have it peer in this window here, and it's going to ask if we want the sky piped in. We're going to say yes. So I'm going to get this into position. What I like to generally do is turn my, not the intensity, turn my size multiplier up to like 3. It gives a little softness to the shadows so they aren't like a super hard line. And then I'll add my subdivs up a little bit. Now in the camera settings, to balance again, to get that feel of an interior shot, we need to do 100 for the ISO and 50 for the shutter speed. And let me go ahead and create the glass material real quick. So there's my material class. Again, all this is building. I've been creating this with the mindset. If you guys are following me from the beginning, you're getting a building perspective on this. So I covered glass already, how to make a really good glass. I'll link to that in the description. We need to go 0 on diffuse, no diffuse at all. We're going to turn our reflection up and we're going to turn our refract up pretty much almost all the way up. I'm going to add this just so we get that in. Let's go ahead and duplicate our pot. I'm just going to basically make it LIN, a more reflective black. And we're going to bring this up to like 8.5. So let's look at that. Okay. And we can go as further as to like add gloss maps on and stuff. But again, I encourage you guys to look at my material courses. So same deal with this. I'm going to take the mullion thing that I had, this edge text that smooths this the edges out in rendering, so I don't have to do it in geometry. We're going to paste that in there, so that gets smoothing on it too. So let's look at this. Let's see what we get now. It should be pretty close to what I had in the render. I don't think I adjusted it much from stock. Look how funky that thing looks. It's got my little maps on it from last time. Let's hide our ceiling, or unhide our ceiling. There you go. That's looking cool. Shift F will give us our, so I'll show you this to you guys, will give us the bounds of our resolution. I always do 16 by 9 kind of renders. So let's go ahead and get that set up. So we'll do that, and we'll just say 1920 by 1080. And let's get this framed up. I kind of like a little bit of that showing up. Wow. Okay. That's kind of cool. So you get some of this. Let me make it a little bigger. You get some of this bluish hue coming from the environment around us. So those windows that I put in behind us that you don't see on camera, that's where you're getting some of this projection of light back in here. And then we obviously have our sunlight projecting onto our chair. So one thing I want to add is I like the bloom effect when in V-Ray. That kind of adds some realism to it as it's, actually restart this. So parts that are super bright, as when you're in an interior, if you try to take a picture in an interior, all the light hitting the floors and everything just gets super blown out. So let's restart that and kind of take a look at that. We'll let it render up a little bit. And it should, after 4 or 5 passes, give us that bloom effect. And actually, let's do it a step further. When testing, I generally like to use NVIDIA's AI denoiser. Here we go. We'll say that. And then in settings here, this post effects rate, this is how quickly it updates. I don't know if it's a time thing or if it's a passes thing. Something like 50 allows it to update pretty quickly as I'm working. Allows me to kind of see things. Now, denoising smooths out little micro normal kind of details. So something like we're going to see with our fabric, we have all these like nice little fine textures that we got out of Substance Painter. It just like steamrolls those right over. So this may look cool right now, right? But a lot of the small details we're going to get are going to be gone. So I use this as a way to like quickly refine lighting, look at lighting, make adjustments, and then I turn off denoiser unless like time crunch, you need like an animation out of an interior and you just have to rely on denoiser to get it out. That I'll use that. So let's do this. I'm going to turn down my shutter slightly because I want it a little brighter. I want the light a little more blown out on the sun. So again, 100 ISO starting with, 50 shutter speed starting with. It's not a hard rule. It's just a starting place for us. And then we make adjustments from there. Another big thing too is I like to put my white balance on neutral. Adding these or even using temperature, you can set your own white balance, but leaving it at neutral, it doesn't try to warm or cool the image at all. And I want that. I want the warmth from the sun. We want the orange from the sun splashing. And then we want the blue from the sky coming through, and you get that contrast. You see it a lot of movies where, maybe I can find a picture and I'll set it, where you have like red coming from one side, blue coming from other. And sometimes they do it like super hardcore and like really avant-garde type commercials. So we want that effect, but we want it subtle. We want it mellow. We don't need it like super flipping crazy. Setting that to neutral will allow that to happen. If I come up and do something like daylight, it's going to try to wipe out the daylight, or I think it actually makes it super orangey. Yeah, so neutral that guy, and we don't have to deal with that. Let's do guess vertices, or I'm sorry, guess vertical tilt. That'll kind of straighten out the image a little bit. As we can see, our tree is shooting out the window. Let's fix that real quick. Okay. Those are looking cool. So we have our primary light in, sunlight coming in, bam, hitting it. The left side doesn't look bad. but it could just be more interesting in my opinion. So that's why I added that little light on the lamp, right? Oh, and if you guys haven't, save your file. It's Max's dumb. I still don't know why it's showing up on my floor's not showing up. Maxisms. All right. So what do we need to do still? We need to set up our little light in the lamp, and then we have so many flipping texture sets with our chair, but it looks so good. I'm gonna need to connect those, but I'll start one and show you guys. I have a video on how to set up texture maps from Vray or from Substance Painter to Vray. So I'm not gonna make you guys sit through setting up like 8 texture sets. I don't think it's 8, I'm being dramatic, but you get the point. So I'm gonna sneak this guy in here. And let's, not that I need to turn that off. I want to set this, I don't know if you guys have ever played with this disc glide rectangle light, directional. It adds it like focused, like a spotlight kind of. So just to show you guys, if I say selected and we like curve this in, look at, it's like the little Pixar lamp. It's cute. So, however, you don't want laser beam. One is like literally a laser beam. If you guys need a laser beam, that's how you do it. You knock it up to 1. I think something like 6.5 or 0.6, 0.5, somewhere in here. Maybe, yeah, maybe 0.65. Round it up. We're going to say invisible, and I don't care if it affects reflections. That's fine. And then let's go back to our camera, and we're going to need to figure out a value. Now, we can mess with color. We can color lights. What I suggest if you guys are going to be doing interior, like ArchViz stuff, is you learn about temperatures. A lot of lights, like if you go into Home Depot, they say like soft white, this and that. But if you look hardcore, it's going to tell you what the Kelvin is. Kelvin is our eye's ability, or let me say our eyes, how our eye perceives the color of that light in a scale. A lot of household lights, if I go to, actually, let's see if we can get this up in here. If I do something like 600. Okay, so we're seeing the light. A lot of house lights, like real orangey warm house lights that I flip and hate, those are in like 4,000. They even go down to like 3,500. Like, look how orangey that is. Like, ugh, no. Where I like things is in like the 5,000 range or 5,500. And these are real world values. So I like that. They even go up to like 7,500, but those are like those LED lights that you see. I don't know, in California, they put a bunch of LEDs for the night lights. Street lights, when you got to go in because it's late and your mom's yelling at you. They did like 7,000 or like 6,500, and it comes out like blue. And that's not too bad in this scene, but 5,500 is kind of where I like it. I don't know. You guys are artists. But again, we're playing with color, right? Something that is warm is going to be inviting naturally. It's always going to be that way. I don't know if it's like genetics thing or not that, survival, you know, like in our DNA. So we play with this. Anything orangier or warmer is going to be inviting to the eye. Anything bluer, colder, our eye's not going to be attracted to. And that's why basically this image works. This render works. The light hitting the chair brings our eye towards it. It's interesting naturally. Now we can leave the blue on the other side, but it's nice to have like a little accent of light, especially because people just don't live in dark homes. Maybe some do. Yeah. So that's where we are. What else can we mess with? I don't want the foot on that. I also want to mess with the sunlight. So I'll show you guys a little trick. If we want to mess around in that quad view, but we want the render to stay here, go to your render settings, and we're going to click this little lock button. So then in quad 4, it's locked to this camera that we have, which we still need to name. So if I go to my quad view, and we mess with the light up in this, it'll stay. Because usually if you don't have it locked, every time you click on this quad up here, the render will change. But I kind of liked the light when it was like kind of hitting the chair, but not super hardcore. Something like that was cool. I kind of liked it as like a little fill light hitting the side of it like that. Yeah, I dig that. Okay. All right. So look at that. looking cool already. We're losing micro details again because of the denoiser, but this allows us to play with iterations of lighting really quickly. So let's go ahead. I'm going to save this bad boy again. Let me go into here. And I'm going to set up one material for you guys. We kind of already did it with the floor, but I'm going to cover it again, and then I'm going to offline real quick, just work on the chair, getting all the maps in. I think there's like 6 different sets, and you guys, that's boring. You don't want to see that. So let me get that done. Oh, actually, here, let's show you, and then I'll get it done offline, and we'll be back to kind of finish out the scene. So let's do, if I grab this, I think all my naming conventions are effed because, yeah, we went through and I added this map to everything. So this one was, I believe, seat in our texture set. Okay. So I'm just going to name it seat so we know. We'll say chair seat to stay organized. Stay organized, people. You will thank your future self for it. Okay. So diffuse goes in diffuse. Imagine that. Reflection, and let me drag this over. Reflection goes into reflection. So under seat, chair low, seat, reflection, bam. Glossiness goes into glossiness, bam. And then we want to use the IOR in the Fresnel IOR slot under reflection, not refraction, reflection. So I'm going to uncheck that, and we're going to say IOR in there. Okay. And then we're going to come down. We're going to add our little bump map. It's actually going to be a Vray normal map. And we're going to pipe in the normal and the height in here, if it will wake up. Okay. So the maps that we now need to override because they're linear. We need to tell Max, don't use 2.2. We need to use 1.0. It's a whole thing we used to argue about back in the day. Now everything's kind of set. So under normal, I'm going to turn down my blur because I want it looking extra sharp and crispy and get all that detail. We're going to say override to 1. So we're going to do this on our normal map, our IOR map, and then also our glossy map. But I also want to do reduce the blur on the height. And then I'm going to click over, and it's going to go to the next map. And then you can see glossiness. So we'll say 0.2 on blur, and we'll override. And we're going to go over again. It'll say IOR, so that's another one we need to override to 1. And go over again. Diffuse, that one we do not need to override, though I want the detail, so we'll do 0.2. And the same with reflection. We're going to leave that as a gamma of 2.2, so we're not overriding down to 1. And there it is in our viewport. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, get the rest of the chair fixed up. I'm not going to do anything other than what I just showed you, so I don't like do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes and you're like, why does my render look all jacked? The big thing is I want to be doing is name your materials. Stay organized with all of this, you guys, especially with how many texture sets we have. So I generally have the name of the model and then what it is. Is it the base? It is the seat back, the arms left and right. It should have been, if I had done UVing properly and didn't forget about textile density, it should have been easy. When we came back, all the materials should have been there all named because we named them prior, right, to exporting to Substance Painter. So that's totally my bad. It makes a little more work for us, but let me go ahead and get this done real quick offline. I will be back. I won't do anything that you guys don't see, I swear. It's BRB. We're back. Yay, we got everything set up. Sorry, again, didn't want you guys to have to sit through that. I also restarted Max because of that floor issue not showing up texture maps wise. Seemed to fix it. So, continuing on. I want to check some more materials to make sure that they're GGX. Oh, and proof. Proof, you guys. Name your stuff. Chair arm left, chair arm right. Keep it all organized. So, ooh, let's go back. Let's check some more materials here. If I drop this guy. Whoa, is it GGX? No, it's Blinn. Let's fix that. Let's fix both of those because it's a blend material. And, oh, that's my wall. Oh, let's name you wall. Keep organized. Hey, wake up. I'm working. Okay, one thing I want to talk to you guys about real quick, because now this is driving me nuts as it does. I don't, some people use these like, what is this? 6x6, like all these. when you open the material editor, your system has to load the maps for all of that. And if you're going Substance Painter crazy, you're going to have like, I don't know, terabyte worth of, terabyte, that's not that big. Okay, maybe like 200 megs, 500 megs worth of textures loading. And it just kind of slows things down. So I always keep it real small. You can always grab more text or more materials. It's never a problem. And a lot of times I'll do this, where is it, reset material editor slot. So watch, if I do that and I open it back up, all the previews load real quick because it's not having to load those maps every time we pull up a material. So I generally clear it out a lot, especially if we're using Substance Painter. We're using 16-bit PNGs and one map's like 200 megs. Yeah, it's just a lot. Okay, so what is this guy? Yeah, we'll turn him to GGX. So a lot of these, like even this dude, no, he's GGX, we're cool. Did I update that? I think I did 8x8 on the rug. This is just, yeah, changing the bump on the rug, you guys. Nothing big. Did I? Okay. Override that to 1. Because normals generally need to be overwritten. Okay, what else in the scene? Let me back up. Oh, stupid roof. Oh yeah, we need to texture the roof. Let me grab this material for the walls. We'll just slap it on the roof too. Why the heck not? We also need to make sure that we need to grab our UVW map, so it's in the same thing or same scale. Paste that on there. Right click, paste it on, copy and paste, pretty easy. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's all I did. It's not super crazy, you guys. It's what I think it is mostly is the balance of the camera to the light source itself. So let's take some test renders here. Let's get that going and kind of maybe adjust some things if need be. Otherwise, I think it's pretty cool looking. Oh, and I'll show you guys the little edge text thing, my little cheat. I don't know. I feel like a phony. I feel like I'm telling you guys I cheat on a lot of things. I hope you guys don't think I'm a cheat. I really don't. Okay. So first, let's take it to the little baseboard. I just like to do little region renders and let them just fire off. Okay. Cool. So you guys see how the edge here is seemingly rounded? That's pretty dope, huh? It's not happening on our mullion. Why the heck is it not? But yeah, at render time, it'll fake that round edge on it, the kind of the bevel. Super cool. And again, a really fast way to just crank out iterations without having to like subdivide everything, edge loops and subdivide everything. We'll look into that, see what's going on with that. What else? Let's look at this left side. We'll look at the texture of our bump on our rug. So how's that looking? That's looking pretty cool. Yeah, the light's looking good. We're getting a little bit of the glare. You see that just update there? Getting a little bit of the bloom on there. Kind of helps with photorealism, right? We need to fake that we have a camera. Over brights end up blooming within cameras. Let's check the rug texture, and then we'll give you the money shot, the chair. And if you guys don't want to see it update, or you actually want to see the render itself and not the denoiser, we can just click on the three little circles here that are colored, and it gives us what is actually happening. So that looks cool. Cool. Let's just do our chair now. We can take a look at that. And I'll show you guys what how bad denoiser is at like wiping out detail. Like, see all this here? Watch, denoiser is just gonna be like, nope. No, yeah, not too bad. It's actually not too bad. I thought it was gonna be worse. But it does. It just like steamrolls any little micro details. So it's good if we're if we're just kind of looking at previews. Not good if we're going to be doing final renders. I wouldn't suggest it. And that's it, you guys. Pretty cool looking. We need a pillow. I feel like we need a pillow. I won't do that because I don't want you guys watching me dig through my library. Add a pillow if you got one. Okay. So let's look at my final render settings, you guys. And I'll explain a little bit about Vray. A lot of people, I feel like, just like kick presets out and off they go. So what I like to do, generally bucket, generally not progressive. I like to do my bucket width at 16. What this does is it takes the buckets that are going across, makes them real small, and it allows, it actually increases render times because you don't have one giant bucket stuck on this little portion of the render, but it's holding up the entire bucket. So reducing bucket size can sometimes speed up render times. This was kind of seen back in Grant Warwick days. He was doing tests and stuff on those with times, but try it. Leave it at 48, do a render, do another render at 16, and doesn't increase it a lot, but helps a little bit within that. So what else? We can do brute force. Brute force is like pixel per pixel, the most accurate GI you can get. It's also the most power hungry GI we can calculate. So a lot of times I'll do a radiance map. We'll just do something like low, and I'll kick the subdivs up kind of high. Something like, let's just say 80 should be good. What I like to do though is this detail enhancement. So if we roll out advanced and go to detail enhancement, what this does is it splits the GI for primary with irradiance map and brute force. So when you click detail enhancement in really tight spots, it's going to do brute force. And then on really big walls where it just does a wash, and you don't get a lot of like cool looking GI effects, it does a radiance map. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the detail in the tight areas, and then the blur effect across big walls. How we adjust how far it's going to use brute force before it switches over to irradiance map is on this scale to screen. It says 60. This is at 60 pixels. So 60 pixels out from, let's say, this leg. It's going to be brute force, boom, then switches to irradiance map. I tend to like to do world just because 60 pixels on a 4K image, like, I don't know, it's like teeny. It's like writing on rice. I don't know how far that is. So when you switch to world, we can then type in a figure. So this, by default, 60 pixels was 2 feet before it switches to irradiance map. I think that's way too big. Something like a foot, maybe 3/4 of a foot. I'll just put a foot in. It's like more than sufficient. Now the subdiv multiplier is the amount of subdivisions brute force will get. Generally, to render a scene, the brute force subdivs need to be pretty high, like 180, 240, something like that, to get something really clean looking. So this is a decimal number of the subdivs of a irradiance map. We don't want a third of 80. We want at minimum 80, or if we do 2 times 80, like 160. I'll do 1.5 somewhere in the middle, and that should be good. Enough samples to not give us noise, and then if we don't have enough samples, it sits on AA, and AA takes a lot longer than adding more samples, as some of you guys know from back in the day in rendering prior to Vray Next and all the kind of automation that they've built into it. Moving along, light cache, always secondary light cache I use. Something like 2000, 2500, somewhere in there. I do not like store direct light. It ends up like making the light look poor for some reason. I don't know what's going on that makes it look that way, but I always tick that off, It might help speed up render if it's on. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Okay, that's that. And then lastly, under our default, we'll turn on ambient occlusion. We'll do this like at 0.6. We'll leave that, that's fine. I'll generally kick it up again. The more subdivs you can give something, the less AA has to work. AA is what takes so long to render an image. So if you can help the image along by giving it more subdivs, there's a balance. Like if I do 30,000 subdivs, that's going to take a long time to calculate. So just kind of boosting or helping kind of push some of these subdivs is going to help that render along. So 32 is generally good. I don't want to get into, let me delete that. I'll get into passes maybe in a separate video. Maybe we can do just a specific thing on passes in this one or the ArchViz video to kind of get into some of that. But not going to get into that. Top there. Dynamic memory limit. I'm on a system that's got 64 gigs of RAM. Building a new system that's going to have even more RAM. You can limit some of the RAM by typing in a number there. So 8,000 is 8 gigs. If you guys are working on laptops, if you just want your computer to go ham because you got a beefy system, 0, done. And I think that's it. I don't think I use anything else. So let me, with these settings, let's do another IPR. We'll take a look at that. Let that run for a second. And that's kind of, again, this is my generic setup for interior renders. I leave it as brute force as I'm playing around with things. Whoa, look how much lighter it got. I wonder what that was. Interesting. This is just kind of, again, my general workflow for interior renders. And there's always like I was saying with the the shutter speed on the camera. It's just a place to start, and then you need to be using your eye. We need to be, as artists, changing those values to get where we want to be in the end. It's not like a hard, fast rule. It's not, you have to use 50 every time and it looks dark. What the heck? Just something to start with and play with. But see how we're getting, like, on the right here, this really cool, you know, sun effect. It's like hitting the chair and like it'll give a little bloom here in a second. And then we have the soft area on the left, which is the lamp itself. Just kind of breaking up some of the blue in the area. I really dig that. It's cool. But I think I want to move the sun over a little more, and then we'll be done with this one. So let me go ahead and stop this. Okay. And actually, let's go into this quad view. I'm going to go back to camera. All right. That's my wife sneaking around in the back. Hee. Wifey Sause. I don't know if you guys watch that guy on YouTube. What's his name? I love him. I'll put a link to him too. He's awesome. Talking about computer builds and stuff. He calls his wife Wifey Sause. Okay, so let's adjust the lighting. I want to crouch it a little more, and then I swear we'll be done. Don't hold me to that though. So I'm going to pull this light back a little more. And actually, let's get this guy a little smaller so we can see what the heck we're doing. We're going to pull it back, and it's going to stretch more on the chair. Let's get about half of it. Yeah, something like that's kind of cool. Okay. We'll let that run a sec. Cue. See? And we do need to do floor gen. We need to do a video on floor gen, you guys. That's crazy. I mean, I love Substance Painter's floors that they have for textures. There's nothing like doing floor gen, UVing that, kicking that over to Substance Painter. It's craziness. So we'll do a video on that for sure. But that's it. I'm going to post the render again that I did prior to get the video started. So you guys can kind of take a look at that. If you have any questions about some of the interior settings and some of the stuff I covered there, please feel free to throw them down in the comments. You guys like, subscribe, that helps me out, share. Again, the purpose of this entire thing is just to help other artists, to help 3D people getting into 3D start out and kind of figure out a lot of this stuff. It can be a little daunting, but yeah, I encourage you guys to stick with it. It's a little bit of a long road, but at the end of the day, if I can help kind of produce some of these videos that help you guys, makes me happy in the long run. So like, subscribe. Love you guys. We'll see you in the next video. I don't know what I'm going to do. I keep promising Star Wars, but then I keep doing ArchViz stuff, so who knows what it'll be. But like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.